Begin today the Gemara on Daf Kufala from its base, 4 lines up from the bottom of the Yomit, where it says "My Vayevoetz." So we're in the middle of an Indian here. The Gemara is discussing Yeravam ben Nevat, which was the first of the Malchei Yisrael. He was one of the 3 kings that are mentioned in the Mishnah that Ein Lechelek Loilam Haba. He was a Chayta Machtis Arabim. He made 2 egels. We'll see soon the story, and he. So here the Gemara brings the beginning of the history of what happened, how it is that he began his melucha, and how he brought the Yidden to serve Avodah Zarah. So the pasuk before the Gemara quoted was that Vayevoetz, he had a whole plan and he had advisors. So my Vayevoetz, what does this mean? Amar Rav Yehuda, so Rav Yehuda said, Shahayshiv Rasha Eitzel Tzadik. So when he took advice, and he had a Rasha and a Tzadik that was sitting together. Amalu, and he says to them, Chasmisu al kolda vidna. Are you going to sign your names on everything that I do, that you put your name behind me? Amrulei hin. And they agreed, they said to him, yes. And this is even the tzaddik said yes. We'll see soon here in the Gemara, Yeravam ben Nevat was a tremendous Talmud Chacham. So Amaluhu, so he says to them, Malke bin Elamevi, I want to be a king. Are you ready to sign your name on this? Amrulei hin, they said yes. Then he said, Kol da aminuluchu of disu, anything I tell you, you'll do. Amrulei hin, they said yes. Then he said, Afila lemilflach ala avedis kechavim, even to serve Avodah Zarah as well. Amarlei tzaddik, so the tzaddik that was sitting there said, Chas v'shalom, God forbid. Amarlei rasha letzaddik, so the rasha that was sitting there said to the tzaddik, Sol kedaitoch the gavre ki yiravam palach avedis kechavim. You think that an individual like Yeravam is such a big Talmid Chacham, he means literally that he's going to request of you that you should put your name behind him to serve Avodah Zarah. Ela leminsinu hu dekabai. He's just asking you this, whether you'll put your name on this to serve Avodah Zarah, just to test you. Are you ready to do anything that I tell you? Ikabliso lememre, whether you're going to accept his words. This is what Yeravam ben Nevat did, and as Rashi says, so they put their name behind him, they signed on him, that whatever he says, even Avodah Zarah, they'll follow him. And they thought that it's just, it didn't mean seriously, it's self-understood, it doesn't mean Avodah Zarah. But then, once he had their signatures, he went and he made an Avodah Zarah, and now they couldn't take back their signatures. He just showed it to everybody, and that was it. That's how he was able to get Klal Yisrael to follow him. Even Achia Hashilaini was from the Yetzim Mitzrayim, and he was a Navi, and he as well was there at that time. The Gemara is soon going to bring the story about him and Yeravam. He also signed in this. He made a mistake about this. He thought that it was just to test him, to see whether he'll be dedicated to him. In Rashi, it's mashma that he signed on this document where it said, even for Avodah Zarah. But he thought it was just a test. But other Rishonim say that Achia Shilaini, which was a Navi, would not sign on such a paper. He signed that he would follow him, but not on this for Avodah Zarah. But he made a mistake because he should have signed and clearly clarified that I'm not going to follow anything that's against the Eibishter. That was the mistake. I hear the Gemara explains that this brought even there were others that were tzaddikim that made a mistake because of this and followed Yeravam. The Yehu Tzadika Rabahava, Yehu, which was also from the Malchei Yisrael later, and he was a great tzaddik, as we'll see soon. The Gemara here brings the pasuk. It says, Shanemar Vayem Hashem al Yehu. The Eibishter says to Yehu, Yan, Asher Tivaisa Lasis Hayasher Be'ayinai. You did everything that's right in my eyes. Kachol Asher B'Levavi Asisa. Lebeis Achav. Everything that was in my heart, you did for the house of Achav. Right, so because Yehu was a king that came and wiped out all the descendants of Achav and all the ones that were the Avodah Zarah of Baal. He killed them all. He brought all the priests of the Avodah Zarah of the Baal and he wiped them all out. And therefore, the Eibishter promised him, "Bnei Reveim Yesh V'Locha Kisi Yisrael," that you'll have 4 generations of kings that will come from you. But the Ksiv, yet at the same time, even though Yehu fought against the Avodah Zarah of Baal so strongly from Achav, but it says about him, "V'Yehu leisham alechas b'teiras Hashem alekei Yisrael." He didn't keep the Torah of the Eibishter with all his heart. He didn't completely go away from the Avodah Zarah, which is the egel. There was an egel that Yeravam made for the Yidden. So my Garmalek, what caused it, Yehu, which was a tzaddik, that this should happen to him? So on one pshat, the Gemara says, "Bris krusalis fasayim." There's a covenant with the words of the mouth that a person says. The person has to be careful what he says, because once you say something out of your mouth, it could come to be. Shanem, the pasuk says that Yehu said, "Achav avad Baal ma'at." Achav served the Baal a little. Yehu yavdeno harbe. Yehu will serve the Baal even more. Why did Yehu say this? because this was a deception. He wanted to get all the ones that were serving the Avodah Zarah of the Baal to come and gather to him. So he said this, that I'm going to serve even more. And so they came to him. Then when they came to him, he killed them all. But because he said those words out of his mouth, it ended up happening that he followed the Avodah Zarah of Yerovam. That's one pshat. But another pshat connected to what was said before, that there were even tzaddikim that signed their name behind Yerovam. Rava said, he saw the signature of Achia Shilaini for Yeravam, and that brought him to make a mistake that to follow Yeravam with the Avodah Zarah of the Egel. There is a discussion in Mefarshim regarding the Egel that Yeravam made, similar to different Tisbeirim that it says regarding the Egel that Yidden made in the Midbar, that it wasn't L'chatchila Inyan of Avodah Zarah Mamish. They just wanted to have something that should be a representative between them and the Eibishter and Mamutza. Obviously, it was all a mistake, and but over here as well, by Yeravam, the Egel that he made, and he made two Egels actually, it was all also made with a certain cheshbon of what this Egel is about. It wasn't Mamish like the Avodah Zarah that there is by Achav. By Achav, the Baal, that was Avodah Zarah Mamish. By Yeravam, it was a different Inyan. And that's where there was a mistake. Okay, now the Gemara brings another inyan here. The Bach says that you're not good as dichsiv, but you're good as ksiv. It starts a new subject. Ksiv, the pasuk says that v'shachata seitim ha'emiku. So the simple touch of this pasuk means that they slaughter seitim. Seitim refers to those that go off the path. Ha'emiku, they went very deep. Va'ani musar l'kulam. And I gave, the Eibusha says, and I give musar to the Yidden to go and to do what they have to do. Now, what is this pasuk saying? Omer Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan darshan, Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibusha says, Heim hemiku mishali. They, the Yidden, when they went and served the Avodah Zarah, they went even deeper, more dedicated to the Avodah Zarah than what I demanded for to be dedicated to me. Because Ani Amarti, I said, Kol she'ena oile l'regel, one that doesn't come to be oile regel to the Beis HaMikdash, oiver be'esa. Yoiv on the es of Yirah Kol Zachorcha. Avol, Veheim that is, but then when they went to serve Avodah Zarah, they went, in the times of Yeravam, he put up police that you weren't allowed to be oile regel, he stopped even from being oile regel, they should come to his place where he had the Avodah Zarah or the Egel. And Veheim, they said, Kol oile regel, yudaka b'cherev. Whoever's going to be oile regel will be killed. So that's the taich of V'shachata, Seitim, that they went and they slaughtered Avodah Zarah for foolish things, or another pshat v'shachta seitim, that this the yidaka b'cherev, that to kill someone that's going to be oile regel. Regarding the story with Yeravam, how did it begin? So it wasn't that time. Yeravam yotzim Yerushalayim, he went out from Yerushalayim, v'yimtzais Achia Shilaini, and he found Achia Shilaini, a Novi, Baderech on the way, and v'hu miskasa v'salma chadasha, and Yeravam was wearing a new garment. And the pasuk goes on to say that the new garment, Achia Shalena took his new garment and he cut it into 12 different pieces, and he said that there's 12, just like there's 12 shvatim in Yidden, so now the 12 shvatim of Klal Yisrael is going to be split, and you're going to become a king over 10 of the 12 shvatim. Okay, but here now the Gemara is going to focus on one prat of this pasuk first. It says ba'eis hahi. So Tana Mishum Rabbi Yosi, eis he was a menace lepuranis. This expression of the pasuk eis he means it was a time of calamity, a time that was designated for puranis, for calamity or for a punishment. Now, similar to this, the Gemara brings other psukim where you see this kind of expression. Be'eis pukudasam yevedu. At the time when the punishment, they'll all be destroyed. Tana Mishum Rabbi Yosi, eis was a menace lepuranis. It's a time to punish those that serve Avodah Zarah. Another pasuk in the opposite, where it says be'eis ratzin anisicha, in the time of when Eibishter wants, he will answer. Tanim Shon Rabbi Yosi, eis muzamenes l'teiva. It's the designated time which is prepared for good, which refers to the coming of Mashiach. And then a similar thing, it says ubiyoim pakti upakadati aleim chatasam, regarding the egel. So it says this lashon of biyoim, and that day when I will remember, so the Eibishter will punish again. This will be Yaim also means a time which is designated for punishment. Another pasuk, a similar expression, by the story of Yehuda and Tamar, that it wasn't that time Yehuda went down from his brothers. It was also a time that was designated for punishment, because then Yehuda got married, he had two sons that passed away, and then the story with Tamar. Here the Gemara brings another similar thing, not regarding a time, but regarding a place that was designated for punishment. Rechavam went to Shechem. Rechavam was the melech from Beis David that was in the same time as Yeravam. So Rechavam went to Shechem. Ki Shechem ba kol Yisrael lahamlecha. He said Yidden came to Shechem to coronate him as a king. So Tanim B'Shem Rabbi Yosi said, Makayim B'Zumah L'Peranis. This was a place that was designated for punishment. That was a time when the Melucha was split from Rechavam, and the 10 Shvatim went with Yeravim ben Nevat. Because why is this a place? Why is this a bad place? Because B'Shchem Inu es Dina. Shchem is a place where they brought the affliction to Dina was. And B'Shchem Ochru Echav es Yosef. And Shchem is when where the brother sold Yosef. Rashi says it, even though it says Daisan, but Daisan wasn't really a place. It was in Shchem. Or Daisan is near Shchem. And B'Shchem also Nechlaka Malchus Beis David. Shchem was the place where the Melucha of Beis David was split, because in the time of Rechavam, that's when Yeravim ben Nevat took 10 Shvatim for his Melucha. Now going back to the pasuk before, that Beis Pekudasam or Beis Yeravim Yotzam Yerushalayim, he went out of Yerushalayim. So the Gemara Darshans, it means Amar Rab Chanine bar Papa sheyatza mipiska shel Yerushalayim. He went out from the note of Yerushalayim, which means that till now he was living in Yerushalayim under the Melucha of Malchus Beis David, and he was a resident there like everybody else. But now he was not a resident; he left for Yerushalayim. And then the pasuk says, "Vayimtza Achia Shiloini Anavi Baderech V'Miskasa V'Salma Chadasha." He found Achia Shiloini, and he was wearing a new garment. And Shneim Levadam Basada. They were both alone there out in the field. So now, my B'Salma Chadasha. What does it mean when it says that he was wearing a new garment? Amar Rav Nachman Ke Salma Chadasha. That the level of Yeravim ben Nevat is compared to like a beautiful new garment. Ma Salma Chadasha Ein Bashum Deifi. Just like a new garment that has no stain on it. Av Teirasa Shel Yeravam Leihaya Bashum Deifi. The Torah of Yeravam was perfect without any stain in it. Davarachar, another pshat, Salma Chadasha means Shechitshu Dvarim Shalei Shama Izam Ya'ilam. They said Chidushim, novel ideas in Torah on a level that no ear has ever heard such ideas in Torah. Now, Omai Shneim Levadim Basada. What does it mean when it says that they were both alone in the field? That there were others that were there, but everyone else is compared to them just like the grass in the field, and they're like these massive trees, and everyone else is insignificant in front of them. Or others say, all the deep reasons of Torah are revealed to them like the grass of the field. So you see here in Torah how great Yeravim ben Nevat was. Now, there's another pasuk that relates to this. The pasuk says, when the Yidden followed Yeravim ben Nevat and they served Avodah Zarah, so there's a pasuk that says, "L'chein titni shiluchim al meireshes gas batei achziv la'achzav l'malchi Yisrael." So the Gemara darshans this pasuk as follows. Amar Rab Chanina bar Papa. Rab Chanina bar Papa says this refers to this that Klal Yisrael, 10 of the Shvatim, split off from the Malchus of Yehuda. It comes from David HaMelech. So Yatsa Baskal Ba'amrolen. Baskal came out and said to the Yidden, Mi Shahareges Plishti. David HaMelech, he's the one that killed the Plishti. He killed Goliath, which was from the place Gas. And for Hayrish Eschem Gas, and he gave you the inheritance of this place Gas. Titnu Shiluchim Lebanov. So now you send away, you give gifts to send away his descendants of David HaMelech, and you're not remaining under the rulership of the descendants of David HaMelech. That's the beginning of the pasuk. It says, "L'chein titni shiluchim al merashe gas." That you give shiluchim, meaning you give gifts to send away David HaMelech that gave you the Yerusha of this place Gas when he fought against Goliath, and therefore Batei Achziv. La'achzav l'malchi Yisrael. The places of Achziv will be given over to Achzav, which refers to the Goyish kings, which meaning the Malchi Yisrael will be captured, will be given over to Goyim that are called Achziv. Rashi brings the lashon of the pasuk Satei Kozov, which is going on Avodah Zarah. So they will be, you will be given over to the Goyim because of this. Amar Rav Chanina bar Papa, the Gemara brings there another statement that is from the same Amayre. So Rav Chanina bar Papa said, "Kol hanene menoilam hazeh b'loi bracha," one that eats and he doesn't make a bracha, kilu geizela kadosh baruch hu uknesses Yisrael. He's stealing from the Eibishter. That's brought also in the Gemara and brachas. But here the Gemara adds another thing. He steals from the Eibishter and he steals from Yidden as well. Shenema, there's a pasuk that says, "Geizel aviv v'imai." He steals from his father and his mother. V'im rein pesha. He says that there's no sin in this. Chavru le'ish mashchis, and he's a friend to one that is a ish mashchis, to a person that's destructive. So what does it mean here that he steals from his father and mother? Ve'ein aviv ela kadosh baruch hu. It means stealing from the Eibishter. Shenemar alei hu avicha kanecha. The Eibishter is your father that acquires you. Ve'ein imay ela knesses Yisrael. And imay refers to the Yidden. Shenemar shma b'ni musar avicha val titash teiras imecha. Therefore, it says this lashon of Torah Simecha refers to the Yidden that learn the Eibishter's Torah. So when a person eats, that is, without making a bracha, so obviously he's stealing from the Eibishter because it's Lashem Aretz Malaya. That's the pasuk the Gemara brings in brachas. But here the Gemara is also saying he's stealing from Yidden, because if you don't make a bracha, so then you're holding back the brachas of the Eibishter that would come to Yidden through making a bracha. So if you don't make a bracha, then you take away those brachas that Yidden would have. Now, my chavru ish mashchis. What does it mean in the conclusion of the pasuk that you become a colleague of a destructive man? Chaverhu liYiravam ben Avad shehishchis Yisrael avim sheb'shamayim. This individual becomes like a chaver to Yiravam ben Avad that brought the destruction for the Yidden against the Eibishter, because a person that eats in public and he doesn't make a bracha, so others see how he's eating without a bracha, so he becomes a chayte machti. He's causing others to do the same, similar to Yiravam ben Avad that brought others, the Yidden, to serve Avodah Zarah. Now the story with Yiravam is Vayidach Yiravam es Yisrael me'achri Hashem v'chtiyem hachata gedayla. He convinced the Yidden and they sinned a great sin. Amar Rav Chanin kishtei maklois hamatiz zu ezu. He brought Yidden to be very far from the Eibishter, like two sticks that you bang one on the other. You take one stick and you bang one on the other, and the stick flies very far away. Some say it like with a baseball bat. You throw up one and you knock the other, and it flies very far away. That's how far Yiravam took away the Yidden from the Eibishter. In connection to this, the Gemara brings what it says by the Chet Egel. Yiravam also he made two egels. So by the Chet Egel it says V'di Zahav. What does V'di Zahav mean? Amr de Rab Yanai. Master of the universe, because of so much silver and gold that you gave Yidden, and Yidden said, it's more than enough, and that's what the term V'di means, V'di Zav, Garam Lam Yisrael, Lahem Lasis Lahem Elokei Zav, that they made the Egel from this gold. And Mashal, and the parable for this is, Ein Arid Doides V'noyem Mitoch Kupeshal Teven. A lion will not pounce and roar if he just has a food, some hay. If he has a lot, if he's eating meat and he's full, and then the lion comes and pounces and roars. Same thing happened with the Yidden, that this was Moshe Rabbeinu's limud zchus on Klal Yisrael when they served the Egel. Going back to Yiravam, Amar Abayshe, Ad Yiravam, Ho Yisrael Yankim Egel Echad. The Yidden were nourishing, meaning they got a punishment, that is, for what they did with one egel in the midbar. That mekan ve'elech, but after Yiravam, mishnayim v'shloisha golim. That besides the two that Yiravam had, there was an addition to the third that was still from the midbar. Rabbi Yitzchak said, Ein lecha kol paranus u'paranus sheba la'ilam. There's no punishment that comes to the world, she'ein ba echad me'esrim v'arba be'hechra litra shel egel erishen, where it doesn't have somewhat, a little bit of included in this punishment from a punishment for the egel. Now, this expression of the Gemara, esrev abba hechra litra, means that when you're measuring something in a scale, so you're giving someone a certain amount, you can't give it exact. You have to be, it should be a little bit tilted to one side. This echad marbam esrev arba, so it should be honest. You shouldn't be, if not, it could be a little bit less. But Rashi says this expression is lav dafke. It's just saying that there's always in every punishment, the Eibishter distributed the punishment of the Egel over all generations, and there's always a little from the Egel. Shanemar, pasuk, it says, as quoted before, B'yoim pakti upakati aleim chatasam. The Eibishter says, when I will recall the Aved of the punishment of the Egel. But on this, the Gemara says, Amar Rab Chanine, la'acha esrim v'aba dairis, but after 24 generations, after the Egel, nigbe pasuk zeh. What's said here in this pasuk, B'yoim pakti pakati, it was already all done. The Eibishter already, the punishment is done, and there's no any punishment anymore for the Egel. Shanam, because the pasuk says, "Vayikra ba'aznei koil gadol leimar." There's a loud voice that said, "Karvu pekadai seir v'ish klimashchiz biyadai." So the pekadais means this, that the Eibishter recalls and punishes for the Egel has already been called and has already been, and it's all done already. Rashi here makes a cheshbon ba'arichis b'nigeya to the generation that we're talking about over here. This was in the generation of Yahyachen, I think it is. Rashi goes through the whole entire cheshbon from Nachshon until the last king over here, which was Yahyachen, the son of Yehoiakim. Rashi goes through the whole thing. Then Nachshon, Salmon, Boaz, Oivad, Yishai, David. You can see in Rashi, it goes through the whole cheshbon, 24 generations, and then the punishment of the Egel is all done. Yeah. Okay, going back to Yeravam, Achar Dover Hazeh, even after all of this, Leishov Yeravam Midarka Yara. He did not do tshuva, he did not return from his bad ways. Now, my Acher, what does it mean after this? After what? Rabbi says, Achar Shetofsei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yeravam Bebigdai. The Eibusha grabbed Yeravam by his garment, and V'amalei Chazer Bach. The Eibusha said to him, do tshuva. And Vani V'ata O Ben Yishai Netayel Began Eden. I, you, and Ben Yishai, David, will walk together in Gan Eden. Amalai, so even though the Eibusha here says that Atta, the Eibusha says you before Ben Yishai, but he wasn't satisfied. He asks the Eibusha, Mi Bereish, who's going to be first? And the Eibusha responds, Ben Yishai Bereish, David HaMelech will be first. Ihachi, so Rav ben Avat responded, if so, Loi Bina, I do not want this. Here you see this was the downfall of Yerav ben Avat, his gaiva that he didn't want Ben Yishai to be Bereish, the Mi Bereish. Right, so here, what you see is that even a person that was such a great Talmud Chacham, but nevertheless, he's still the title that he learned. It was not 100% lishma because of the gaiva. This brought him down. This was his downfall. Rabavo rogel davakadarish b'shloishim malachim. Rabavo, he would speak about the story of the three kings that are mentioned in our Mishnah that don't have a chelik leilam haba. Chalash, he became very ill. So he took upon himself that he's not going to dash, he's not going to speak about them again. But then Kivin the Isfach, when he became healthy again, he was again expounding and speaking about the story of these three kings. So Omri, they said to him, like Kibilas Allah, didn't you accept upon yourself that you're not going to speak about them? So Amar, but he said, Inu mi hadri bihu. Did they do tshuva for what they did? That I should hold myself back from speaking about their bad ways. So therefore he continued speaking about them. And then the Gemara brings the story about Rav Ashi, it's a famous story. Bei Rav Ashi, Oiki Ashloishim Malachim. Rav Ashi, he was teaching Sanhedrin, and he stopped by this Mishnah that says the story about these three kings that don't have a chelik l'olam haba. And then Omar, he said to his students, L'machar niftach b'chavre. Tomorrow we're going to start with the story about these three kings, our friends, our colleagues, that what happened to them, why they don't have a chelik l'olam haba. That was the expression he used, chavrin, our friends. Okay, so now also Rashi brings the term chavre means that they were tamidei chachamim like us, but still they're not going to have a chelik l'olam haba. So now also Menashe, one of those three kings, which is Menashe, is Chazile b'chalma, appeared to him in a dream, and Omar and said to him, Chavrach v'chavre da'avuch karislan. You referred to me as your friend or your father's friend. Mehecha boys. So you wanted to prove to him that he can't even answer a simple shaila in halacha. So he asked him, Mehecha boys lemishra hamaitzi. Where do you cut the bread when you cut for hamaitzi? Amalei, Rav Ashi said, Lo yadayna. I don't know. Amalei. So Menashe says to Rav Ashi, Mehecha the boys lemishra hamaitzi legemiris. You don't even know where you cut a bread when you make hamaitzi. V'chavrach karislan. And you refer to me as a friend of yours. Amalei, so Rav Ashi says to Menashe, Agmereli, teach me, tell me, Ulumachar, tomorrow, the Rishnale Mishmach Bepirke, I'll teach my students, I'll teach in your name this halacha where you cut the bread. Amalei, so Menashe told him, and this is actually the halacha in Shulchan Aruch, Meheche the Karim Bishula, that you cut the bread in that place where it's more crusted, where it's burnt more, which is at the side of at the edges of the bread, not in the middle. That's one pshat Rashi here brings, or another pshat of actually another girsa here is Me'echad the Kodim, where it starts baking first, which is the same idea there, where it's baked better, baked more. Yeah, okay. So that's the halacha that he taught him. So Amalei, so now Rav Ashi asks Menashe the question, since you're so wise in Torah, my time kapal so why did you serve Avodah Zarah? Amalei, so Menashe answered him, Ihaves Hasam, if you would have been there, have a nakitna b'shipule glime, so you would pick up your own garments and v'rat esavasrayit, so you shouldn't trip on your garments to be able to run quickly. You would run after me. That's Rashi's pshat. The Maharsha says that nakita b'shipule glime means you would pick up my garment. He said you would pick up my garment to just hold on to my garments. That's how much you would be running after Avodah Zarah. Right. So what you see over here in this story is that when we speak about Menashe or Yeravam and those that served the Avodah Zarah in those times, it's hard for us to understand what it is. But this was the Yetzer Hara in that time, which was extremely, extremely powerful. That, as the Gemara here says, that was the Nisayan of that time. Yeah. Now, Lamacha, so when Rav Ashi came the next day, Amalohul Rabbanan, he began the Mishnah to teach about these three kings that don't have a chelik l'olam haba. So he said, Niftach b'Rab v'sel. Let's begin learning the halacha about our Rebbes, the ones that teach us Torah. Okay, now this is the conclusion of the story of Yeravam, which was the first of the kings that doesn't have a chelik l'olam haba. Now the Gemara says Achav, which was the other king that served Avodah Zarah. Achav was already in a different, as I mentioned before, the Mefarshim say Achav was Avodah Zarah of Baal, which was different than the Egel of Yeravam, and the Avodah Zarah of Baal was Avodah Zarah Mamish. So Achav, what's the meaning of his name? Ach means Ach l'shamayim of l'Avedis Kechavim. Now what that means is Ach l'shamayim, it means a pain for heaven. Where do you see the term Ach means pain? D'chsiv Ach l'tzara yulad. When a person has a tzara that comes to him, he says Ach, like a person he moans and groans Ach. That's Ach l'tzara yulad. Yeah. Na'av l'Avedis Kechavim, he was a father. Avodah Zarah d'chsiv Karacham of Abanim, like a father on his children. Ashi says this psukim are extra over here, but it's just pointing out the thing that he was a father for Avodah Zarah. Then it says by Achav that Vayihi Hanokel Lechtoi Bechatas Yeravam ben Nevat. It was for him easy what he went in the ways of the Averis of Yeravam ben Nevat. What does this expression mean in the pasuk? Rabbi Yechanan said, Kalos Sha'asa Achav. The lighter Averis that Achav did was Kechamuris Sha'asa Yeravam. Was like the severe Averis of Yeravam. It was a much lower, bigger Baal Aveda, much more Avodah Zarah. So why do you find in many psukim of Melachim, when it speaks about other kings that went in bad ways of Avodah Zarah, it says that they were like Yeravam? Why doesn't it say like Achav, which was worse? The answer is because Yeravam was the first that went off the path. He was the first that brought Yidden to serve Avodah Zarah. The pasuk says regarding by Achav, that Gam, the beginning of the pasuk over there says that Hayu Bagilgal Shvarim Zibechu, that they slaughtered the oxen in Gilgal, and it says Gam is B'chaisam Kegalim Al Talmei Sodai, that they made a mizbeach like waves on the rows of my field. Rabbi Yechanan says, Ein l'cha kol telem v'telem b'Eretz Yisrael. You don't have any row in any field in Eretz Yisrael. Shalei hamid all of Achav Avodas Kechavim v'ishtach v'lei. That Achav didn't put in Avodah Zarah there and bow down to it. What's the source that Achav does not have Olam Haba? The pasuk says, "V'chrati la'Achav mashten bekir." I will cut from Achav any descendants. Mashten bekir over here means even Talmid Chachamim of his descendants that take the words of Torah to their heart, and v'atzur v'azuv b'Yisrael, and it'll be disconnected and let go from Yidden. So these two expressions, atzur means ba'olam hazeh, and olam hazeh will be wiped out all his descendants, and v'azuv la'olam haba. And that means that he won't be in Olam Haba. Rabbi Yechanan said, Omri, which was the father of Achav, why was he zeicha for this kingdom to come from him? Because he conquered one city for Eretz Yisrael. Shanem, as the pasuk says, that Vayiken is Sahar Shemrein Me'ez Shamar or Shemer b'kikraim kesef, with this amount of silver. Vayiven es ahar vayikra es shem meir ashabana al shem shemer adnei ahar shemrein, or adnei ahar shemrein. So he added this city over there in Shemrein, and therefore he was able to have melucha. Rabbi Yechanan said, what was the schus that Achav himself had, that he had malchus for Chav Beishan? He was a king for 22 years, even though he was such a rasha. The answer is because he gave honor to Torah that's given with 22 letters. Where do we find this? Shenever, the pasuk says, Vayishlach. This was in the time when there was a king from Aram, Hadad ben Bedad, that was fighting Yidden, and he was going to conquer Eretz Yisrael. So Vayishlach malachim alachav. So this king of Aram, Hadad ben Bedad, he sent messengers to Achav, Melech Yisrael, Ha'ira, to the city, Vayemuloi, and he said to Achav, Koyama ben Hadad. Ben Hadad said, Kaspacha, Ozavacha, your silver, your gold, Lihu is all mine. I'm going to conquer, I'm going to take everything. Your wife, your good children are all mine. So that, tomorrow I'm sending my servant to you. They're going to look through your home and the houses of all your servants. And then here he says that everything that's precious to your eyes, they will take. So what is this refers to here when it says that Hadad said, I'm going to take away everything that's precious from you? So now it says here in the pasuk, Vayemel Malachi, Ben Hadad, that Imru La'Adoni HaMelech, so Achav sent back the message with the messenger of Ben Hadad, tell the king, what you sent the first message, that you're going to take my silver, my gold, my wife, my children, that you can take. But then the second pasuk here, where he sent him another message, and he said that I'm going to take machmad einecha, what's precious to you, that I can't allow you to take. That's what Achav responded. Now, my machmad einecha, what is this thing that was precious that he didn't want to allow the king of Adad ben Medad to take? So Lav, Sefer Torah, don't you think this is a Sefer Torah that was precious to him? So we see over here that as great as Rasha Achav was, but he said, you want to take my gold, silver, my children, you can take everything, but not a Sefer Torah. What the Gemara says, how do you know this is what it means? Maybe it refers to Avodah Zarah that was precious to him, that he didn't want to give him. Says the Gemara, it can't be, because the Chsiv in the pasuk there it says, the elders and all the people said that you shouldn't listen, you shouldn't allow him to take. So we see that this Kainim, that's it can't be regarding Avodah Zarah. Says the Gemara, how do you know? V'dil misabi the basahavu. Maybe it's the foolish elders that were part of Avodah Zarah, and they told him not to allow him to take Avodah Zarah. Miloi Ksiv, isn't there another pasuk where it says, "Vayishar adava be'enei Avshalom u'be'enei kol ziknei Yisrael"? That Avshalom and the Ziknei Yisrael decided they want to rebel against David HaMelech. So over there, Ziknei Yisrael refers to those that were foolish. V'amar Rav Yosef sabi de ba'asa. So they were foolish elders. So maybe here as well, when it says "Vayom Erev kol azkeinim," it also refers to Avodah Zarah. But the Gemara says, Hasam like Ksiv v'chol ha'am. Over there, it doesn't say all of the people, all of the Yidden. Hacha Ksiv v'chol ha'am. Here it says all of the people. It's impossible to denote tzaddikim amongst Yidden, so it can't be referring just to Avodah Zarah, because all the they were all telling Achav not to give this, machmad einecha. So it has to be referring to something else, which is Torah, the Sefer Torah. But it says regarding the Yidden in that time, V'sharti b'Yisrael shivas alafim. I will allow the remnant amongst Yidden 7,000. Those are those knees that did not kneel to the Baal, to Avodah Zarah. And the mouth that didn't kiss Avodah Zarah. And therefore here, this is the point that we see that Achav did not give away the Sefer Torah, was not ready to give away the Sefer Torah, and that was the reason why he was able to have kingdom for 22 years. Amar Rav Nachman said, Achav shakul haya. Achav, it was 50-50, as half Avedis and half mitzvahs. And why is this? Because we see that says, Vayemer Hashem, the Eibishter says, Mi yiftes Achav, who is going to convince Achav, Vayal, and he shall go up to that place where he's going to be killed, Vayipol B'Ramas Gilad, he's going to be killed in this place of Ramas Gilad. Vayemer Zeh B'Koi V'Zeh B'Koi, and there were different voices that responded to the Eibishter and said, one said offer this, one offer this. The point there is, you see, that for the Eibishter to bring this, that Achav should die, wasn't a simple matter. Kaviyachal Eibishter is looking for ways how he's going to cause him to die. It must be that he wasn't a Rasha, he was half mitzvahs and half Avedis. Maskef Rav Yosef, but Rav Yosef asks him this, how could you say this about Achav? Regarding Achav, where the pasuk says, Rak lehoya ka'achav, there was nobody as wicked as Achav. Asher esmak elasas harab eni Hashem, he was totally dedicated to doing everything bad in the eyes of Hashem. Asher Izevel Lishta, and everything that his wife Izevel told him to do. Utanina, we learned in the Braisa about this, B'chol Yoim, every day. She would weigh golden coins for the sake of Avodah Zarah. And you're saying that by Achav his behavior was equal, half and half, like a Beinani. Elo, so the Gemara explains that Achav is really a complete Balaveda Zara. But Achav vatron b'memoine hoya. He was someone that was very generous with his money. He gave a lot of tzedakah. Because he gave so much money for tzedakah for the Talmidei Chachamim, it atoned for half of his sins. That's why he's shokol. That's why he said he was half and half. Now, this story here regarding Achav, that the Eibishter wanted him to come to die. So vayetzi ruach vayamad lifnei Hashem. A spirit came out and stood in front of Hashem, vayemer, and said, Ani afatenu. I will convince him to go to this place, Ramas Gilad, where he'll die. Vayemer Hashem elav bama. How? Vayemer, so this spirit said, Eitzei, Vayisi Ruach Sheker B'fi Kol Neviyav, I will be the spirit, a false spirit that will come to all of his Nevi'im, and I will tell them, they'll hear a false prophecy that he should go, and he's going to listen to these Nevi'im, and that will be his downfall. Vayemer, and the Eibishter says, Tifteh, v'gam tuchal. Go and convince them, and you will be successful. Etzei v'asei king. Go out and do this. Now, my ruach, which spirit was this? Rabbi Yochanan said, ruach shel Novus Yisraeli. This was the spirit of Novus Yisraeli, which Achav actually killed. The story we had before here in the Gemara also, that he had a vineyard that Achav wanted, and then Achav killed him in order to get his vineyard. So now this spirit was coming to take revenge. Now, might say, why is the pasuk you say that David tells him go out? The David says go out from my place. Someone that says falsehood cannot be in the Abish's vicinity. So because he said that he's going to be the false spirit to say the false prophecy, so the Abish says go out. Rav Papa says, this is what people say, the para kine machrev beisei. Someone that takes revenge, he ends up bringing destruction to his own home. So over here, Novus wanted to bring revenge, and David tells him go out. So what happened? Vayas Achav v'sa'asheda. Here the story about Achav, that he made a Avodah, he made an Asheda, which is an Avodah Zarah tree. Vayosef Achav la'astes lahachas Hashem l'kei Yisrael mikol malchi Yisrael ashoy lefonav. He brought anger to the Eibishter more than all the other malchi Yisrael before him. What does this mean? Rav Yochanan shekasav al das l'shemron. He wrote on the doors in the place of Shemron, Achav kafa b'lekei Yisrael. That Achav denies in the Eibishter. Lefichach ein lo chelek b'lekei Yisrael, and therefore he has no portion in the Eibishter l'kei Yisrael. Now, also, when I think this is a later king of Lekei Yisrael, Vayavakesh es Achazyahu, Vayilchideu, v'hu mischabe b'Shemron. They were looking for Achazyahu, and he was captured, and he was hiding in Shemron. What does this mean? What was he doing there? Amar Rab Levi shoyakayder askarais. He would pierce out the names of the Eibishter in the Torah, because of Avodas Kechavim Tachtein. He would write the names of Avodah Zarah instead of them. Yeah, so he was hiding because he didn't want to do this publicly, so because they wouldn't allow him to do this. Okay, so this is the end of the story of Achav. That was the second king that doesn't have a chelik l'olam haba. Now the third king, Menashe, he does not have a chelik l'olam haba. Who was Menashe? So first, the name Menashe means shenosha ka, that he forgot the Eibishter. Menashe means to forget. And over another pshat, Menashe means shehinshi es Yisrael lavim shebashamayim. He caused the Yidden to forget their father in heaven. How do we know that Menashe is the third king? It doesn't have Olam Haba, because the Chsiv, the Pasuk says, he was 12 years old when he became king, and he was 55 years a king in Yerushalayim, and it says, he did like what Achav did, making an Ashera. So it compares him to Achav. Menashe also it doesn't have Ein Lechelik Lo'olam Haba. Now, going back here to the Mishnah, it said that Rabbi Yehuda said, he argued on this, he said, Menashe yesh lechelik l'olam haba. Menashe does have a chelik l'olam haba. So now the Pasuk says, Vayispal Menashe al Hashem vayaseh, that he davened, we had before the story, when he was taken down to Bavel and he was suffering, and he davened to the Eibishter, and the Eibishter answered his tefillah. So therefore he has a chelik l'olam haba. So Rabbi Yochanan, about this machlekes, whether Menashe has a chelik l'olam haba or not, Shneim mikra echad darshu. They both darshu in the same pasuk. Shneim, the pasuk says, Unesatim l'zav alachol mamluches haaretz, and it'll be like a trembling for all the kings of the land. Beglal Menashe ben Yechizkiyahu, because of Menashe ben Yechizkiyahu. So what does this mean? Mar Sovar. So one opinion over here is Beglal Menashe she'asa tshuva. The reason why all the Yidden will suffer is because Menashe did tshuva ve'inu lo yavid. Menashe did tshuva and they did not do tshuva, and therefore everyone else will suffer that they didn't do tshuva like him. But he did tshuva and therefore will have a chelik l'olam haba. But Mar Sovar, the other opinion, the Rabbanan over here held about this, Beglal Menashe the lo yavid tshuva, that Menashe did not do tshuva and he drawed all the Yidden after him. That's why all the Yidden will tremble and suffer from this. Okay, Simon B'Taif.